First of all, discuss the placement of the hands. I've often seen people placing their hands just behind their ears here. This doesn't support the head very well at all. And the average head weighs about 12 pounds, so it's quite a heavy part of the body. And if we're not supporting the head correctly, then the neck muscles have to take the strain. And you can see the front of my neck just right here. You can see the muscles bulging out. They're not supported at all. So my neck muscles are actually now taking the weight of the head. I want my hands to take the weight of the head, so it minimizes the tension right here. So I'm actually going to interlace my fingers and place my hands at the back of my skull. I want my hands to act like a hammock or a cradle, supporting and holding the weight of the head. Next of all, we'll discuss the position of the elbows. Now, when we're lying on the floor, the elbows can often fall out to the side here. If I then curl up off the floor and keep the elbows out to the side, again, the arms are not supporting and taking the weight of the head. What actually has to happen, instead of the chin jutting out and the elbows being behind the ears, we want the elbows to be almost in front of the ears within our peripheral vision. And that way, as we bring the elbows forward, the head naturally falls back and the tension from the front of the neck is released. So you can see, if you look at my neck now, as I take the elbows back, the tension goes into the front of the neck. As I release, and the elbows come forward, the tension falls away. Incorrect? Strain at the front of the neck, elbows are behind the ears, and then elbows in front of the ears, allowing the head to fall back, and the strain is out of the neck muscles. So that's our hands in the correct position and our elbows now in the correct position. So now we look at the placement of the eyes. Now, when we're lying on our back, our eyes will be looking up at the ceiling. But if we keep our eyes looking up at the ceiling as we curl up, again, what happens is, in order to maintain looking upwards, our chin tends to poke out and our head falls back. And that actually shortens here, the vertebra at the back of the neck, where we want to keep them nice and long. So we just gently dip our head forward as we're coming up, so that the eyes are above the knees, rather than looking up at the ceiling and the head starting to throw back, resulting in the neck being shortened. So now we have our fingers interlaced behind the middle of the skull, the elbows just in front of the ears, and as we curl up, our eyes looking just above the knee level. And that will help to support the neck. These ab crunch machines that you may have seen from years ago were originally brought out really to take the tension out of the neck. Not that they work your abdominals any better, because all they're doing is to help support the head. But if you know how to do that yourself correctly, you don't need any of those machines. So now that we've got maximum relaxation here, we want to then focus on the pelvis. As we curl up, the tendency will be to press the lumbar spine downwards, resulting in a north position of the pelvis. We want to try and keep our pelvis in that natural neutral position. So as we curl up, we are engaging the deep transversus muscle and the pelvic floor to help keep us in that neutral position whilst we curl up. We also want to keep the length in the spine, so we're not shortening the body or pulling on the back of the neck. Okay? So keeping the length here in the abdominals whilst you curl up, rather than crunching forward and shortening too much. So lying on our backs, we breathe in. As we exhale, Draw in the pelvic floor and the belly button. Keep the ribs nice and calm, and very slowly just lift the head a few inches and look straight towards the knees. Make sure the buttocks are relaxed. If you're still in neutral in this position, you haven't tilted, you can breathe in again. As you breathe out, engage the core and curl up a little bit higher. If you're still in a neutral position then, breathe in again. Breathe out, engage the core and curl up a little bit high. And you can keep doing this as long as your pelvis remains in that neutral position and you keep the body in a nice lengthened position. If you come up too high and you end up tilting the pelvis, let's say north by about 20%, then you correct yourself by tilting south by the same degree, 20%, to bring you back to neutral, and then curl back down. Until your final aim is really to come up in one long, smooth movement without tilting or arching, and then gently releasing back down. So lying in the relaxation position with the feet and knees about hip width apart and the pelvis in neutral. Take the hands, make a hammock with the fingers, and then gently place the hands behind the middle of the skull. The elbows are forward within your peripheral vision, and there's a gap between the ear and shoulders which should be maintained throughout. Breathing in through the nose. As you exhale, draw in the pelvic floor, draw in the belly button, the ribs stay calm, and just gently lifting the head only off the floor. Eyes looking just above the knees. As long as the pelvis is still in neutral and you're okay to come up a little bit further, breathe in again. Exhale, pelvic floor, belly button, gently and slowly curl up. Almost think about doing this in slow motion, because the quicker you lift, the more likely your pelvis is to fall out of that neutral position. Breathe in again. Blow out through the mouth, engage pelvic floor, belly button, and slowly curling up, sliding the shoulder blades down into the back and away from the ear, and feeling them widen across the back also. Now, the pelvis is still in neutral position here. Breathe in again. Blow out through the mouth, engage the pelvic floor, draw in the navel and come up a little bit higher without pulling on the neck. Imagine there's a little satsuma between the chin and the chest, so you're not going to squash it. Maintaining a little gap here and the gap here also. The pelvis is still in neutral. You can come up again, breathing in. Blow out, pelvic floor, belly button, and slowly curling up. And there's a little bit of shaking going on there, so the muscles are working quite hard. But the pelvis is still in neutral. And then gently, slowly curl down. It's better to perform the curl-ups very slowly because it takes much more stomach strength to perform it slowly. And also, when you're doing a movement slowly, it has to be under control rather than using